The storm groaned like a wounded god over the valley. Its roar cracked open the black sky, spilling streaks of white fire across the mountains. Amid the wreckage of forgotten machines, Mec tightened a rusted valve, his lamp flickering against the metal ribs of a dragon relic. The air hummed with old power, the kind that once answered prayers. But no one prayed anymore. He was adjusting the pressure seal when the heavens tore apart. A flash, then a sound like mountains screaming. Something immense and burning crashed beyond the ridge, sending a tremor through the ground. Mec looked up, oil-stained hands frozen mid-turn. He felt it before he saw it, the heat, the pulse, the ancient breath that didn't belong to this dying world. He followed the glow through ash and rain until he found her. The giant sister dragon woman lay half-buried in the valley's bones, scales dimmed to dull silver, wings cracked like stained glass. Steam rose from her body in slow, pained sighs. For a long moment, Mec could only stare, heart thrumming against the weight of her silence. When her eyes opened, gold slits of molten dawn, his knees almost buckled. She watched him with the weariness of centuries. Her voice came like thunder disguised as a whisper. "I haven't had sex in 16 months. The words hung in the air, absurd, heavy, human. Mec blinked, unsure if he'd misheard. What?" She chuckled, a sound that rolled through the valley. "That is how long it's been since the curse took hold. Each month, my flame dims. I will die soon." Mec steadied himself. "You're not human." "No," she said, and the clouds trembled. "I am what's left of divinity. The Celestial Council sealed my heart for disobedience. They called it celibacy. I call it slow death." Her body shimmered with veins of fractured light, as though her spirit leaked through the cracks of her skin. Mec could see the machinery beneath, the intricate patterns of living metal. He felt an ache he couldn't name. "You're hurt," he said. "I can help." She turned her head, eyes narrowing in faint amusement. "A mortal? You'd drown in my fire." "I fix what's broken," Mec replied simply. "That's what I do." She studied him, then laughed again, softer this time. "You're bold. Boldness was once our favorite human trait." He approached carefully, each step echoing in the hush between storms. The closer he came, the more immense she became, a cathedral of scales and sorrow. "Why here?" he asked. "I fell," she said. "The heavens have no mercy for rebels. And I grew tired of silence." Her tail shifted, scattering dust and stone. Mec saw the symbol carved into her chest, a sigil glowing faintly, part seal, part wound. It pulsed with a rhythm slower than a heartbeat. "What did you do to deserve this?" he asked. "I loved humanity," she murmured. "Too deeply. I gave my flame to protect your kind when the gods demanded withdrawal. For that, they branded me impure. 16 months ago, they took my union from me, the connection that feeds my power. Without it, I fade." Mec swallowed, unsure if he was speaking to a goddess or a dying machine. "So you fell for us, and we left you behind." She didn't answer. Her eyes closed, the faint hum of her core fading lower. Rain fell heavier now, pattering against her body in soft rhythm. He moved closer, resting a hand against one of her broken wing struts. It was warm, not the warmth of metal, but of something living, fragile in its exhaustion. "If your heart burns out," he said quietly, "what happens to the sky?" "It will go dark," she said. "The last flame extinguished." Mec clenched his jaw. He looked back toward his workshop, rows of useless machines, shells of ambition. The world had long forgotten its gods, but here was one bleeding in the dirt, dying of loneliness. "I can't promise miracles," he said. "But maybe I can keep you alive a little longer." Her eyes opened again, searching his face for mockery and finding none. A slow smile curved her lips. "You offer help to something that once ruled over your species. Why?" He shrugged. "You said you loved humanity once. Maybe I just want to return the favor." She exhaled, a low rumble that shook the rain into mist. "Very well, little mechanic. Fix what even the gods abandoned." Lightning flared overhead, casting her in sharp relief, Wings folded, eyes gleaming, the last divinity bowing to a man made of rust and dust. Mec reached for his tools, heart pounding with a purpose he didn't understand. The world had grown small. The sky had forgotten how to dream. But tonight, beneath the shattered heavens, a human dared to touch the divine again. Her laughter lingered like smoke in the back of his mind. By morning, the valley was quiet except for the slow hiss of her breath. Mec had spent the night gathering his tools, his thoughts, and the courage to speak again. The dragon woman's scales glimmered faintly, their color fading with every passing hour. He could feel her power leaking into the ground like spilled light. "You can't fix what the gods have broken," she said, her voice low, amused but brittle. Mec ignored her. "If it was made, it can be remade. Even gods follow laws. They just pretend they don't." He pressed his hand against the fractured sigil on her chest. The surface vibrated with a strange harmony, part energy, part pain. She tilted her head, studying him. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be? I could end you with a breath." He looked up. "And yet, you haven't." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then a quiet laugh rolled out of her, softer this time. "You humans were always arrogant enough to talk back to dragons." "I'm not arrogant," he said, "just interested." That word caught her attention. Interest. It had been centuries since anyone had looked at her with curiosity instead of fear. Mec's eyes were steady, analytical, almost reverent, but never worshipful. He began assembling the device he'd built for years, a fusion of relic fragments, mechanical nerves, and crystalline filaments he'd scavenged from ancient ruins. "You said your heart dims without union. I think your energy system once relied on resonance, a feedback loop. Like these machines." She blinked slowly, a spark of memory flickering in her gaze. "You speak of the old design." "The first bonds between dragons and humans," Mec said, tightening a copper ring around a pulsating shard. "Not about control, but exchange. You gave your energy, humans gave you emotion. Balance." She watched him work, her massive claws curling slightly into the earth. "We ended it when your kind began taking more than they gave. You learned to consume without sharing. It unmade us." "Maybe that's why we built machines," Mec muttered. "To fill the silence you left behind." He looked up again. "If I could restore the resonance, even for a while, would it save you?" Her tail flicked, scattering dust like golden ash. "It would keep me from fading, but it would also bind us. The link was never meant to be casual. You'd feel what I feel. See what I see." Mec didn't hesitate. "Then show me." The dragon's eyes narrowed. "You don't even understand what you're offering." "I don't have to," he said. "I just know you're dying, and I don't want to watch another miracle turn to dust." For a moment, the valley was silent except for the pulse of rain. Then, slowly, she lowered her head until her breath washed over him like heat from a forge. "You remind me of the first ones," she murmured. "The dreamers who touched the stars and called it courage." She let him place the resonance coil at the center of her chest. The contact sent a tremor through the air. Mec felt it in his bones, a deep, slow heartbeat syncing with his own. "You said 16 months, he said. "Why count?" "Because time is crueler than gods," she replied. "Every moon without connection steals a piece of me. I wanted to remember what it felt like to care about the passing of days." He nodded. "Then maybe we can make the next one count." He adjusted the tuning forks, the old runes carved along their surface beginning to glow. The air thickened, vibrating between them. "When I activate it, you'll need to focus on the feeling of life," he said. "Not pain, not loss, just the will to exist." She gave a sound halfway between a sigh and a growl. "You speak like a priest, not a mechanic." Maybe faith is just another kind of engineering. Something shifted in her expression, a faint warmth beneath the exhaustion. For the first time since she fell, she smiled without bitterness. "Then engineer, little human. Show the heavens their mistake." Mec reached for the final switch. The machine hummed to life, its energy threads crawling across her body like veins of light. She gasped, a sound raw and ancient, as her chest glowed brighter, the cracked sigil pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Her energy surged, but not violently. It wrapped around him, not burning, but tasting, curious, searching. "I can feel you," she whispered. "Your thoughts. Your fear. Your purity." He flinched, eyes wide. "That's not part of the plan." "Oh, but it is," she said, voice rich and deep now. "Resonance isn't just energy. It's truth. You can't hide what you are when your soul touches mine." The glow dimmed for a moment, then steadied. She inhaled sharply. "It's working. My flame stirs." Mec collapsed to his knees, dizzy but smiling. "Then we've bought you time." The dragon woman's gaze softened. "Time is not what you've given me. You've given me memory." He met her eyes, chest heaving. "Good. Then remember us kindly." "I might," she said, lowering her head until her voice brushed against his ear. "If I don't burn you first." But her tone was no longer a threat, it was almost tender. The valley glowed faintly now, light pooling in the cracks of her scales. Mec leaned back against the dirt, feeling the hum of her energy seep into the earth around him. Above them, the storm broke. For the first time in years, the clouds thinned enough to reveal a patch of stars. Mec stared upward, whispering, "You said the gods made you to guard the sky. Maybe that's what you're still doing, teaching it to shine again." The dragon woman didn't answer, but the light inside her chest pulsed once, bright as dawn, and the valley breathed. The valley trembled as Mec adjusted the resonance core for the final alignment. His hands shook from exhaustion, oil and blood mixed on his palms, but the machine obeyed. The dragon woman loomed above him, her wings twitching with faint life. Her breath came in measured gasps, each exhale a ripple of molten air. She was stabilizing, but the seal on her heart still burned, a celestial brand refusing to die. "You've given me strength," she said, voice deep as a storm rumbling underground. "But the curse holds." Mec looked up, sweat dripping into his eyes. "Then we break it." She frowned. "You don't understand what that means. This seal isn't forged by matter, but by will. It binds soul to shame." "Then we'll burn the shame," he said. "All of it." A pause stretched between them, heavy with something unspoken. Her eyes softened, and for a heartbeat she looked almost human, ancient sorrow carved into grace. "If we try this, we share everything. My fire will pass through you. Your body may not survive." Mec smiled faintly. "I've lived my whole life fixing things no one cared about. If I die fixing something that matters, I'll call that a trade-up." For the first time, she bowed her head. "Then let us make the gods regret their cruelty." Mec positioned himself beneath the glowing heart sigil, placing both palms on the fractured seal. The machine beside him whined as it reached critical resonance. The ground split with a pulse of light that bled upward into her chest. Her body arched, wings stretching wide, lightning cascading down her scales. Mec felt the energy surge through him, searing every nerve. Her voice roared inside his mind. "Open yourself." He obeyed. The connection ignited. He saw what she saw, memories flashing like burning glass, worlds aflame, celestial towers, human hands reaching for the stars, then betrayal, then chains. She had loved humanity once so deeply she defied heaven itself. For that love, they called her unclean. He gasped as pain flared through his ribs, but beneath it came a strange peace. "You never stopped loving them," he thought. Her answer was a whisper of thunder. "No. Even when they forgot our songs." The resonance deepened. His heart and hers beat in perfect time. The sigil cracked. Gold light spilled out in rivers. Mec's body began to tremble violently, skin fracturing into glowing lines. "Don't stop," he hissed through his teeth. "Keep going." She gritted her fangs, power radiating outward in a wave that shook the mountains. "You'll burn, human. Then let me burn bright enough to matter." A shuddering cry tore from her throat. The seal splintered, shards of divine energy bursting into the air like shattered glass. Mech's vision blurred, the world reduced to light and heat. Through the blaze, he heard her voice, low, awed, trembling. You did it. The curse broke with a sound like thunder collapsing into silence. The dragon woman stood renewed, her scales blazing with liquid fire, her eyes twin suns. Around her, the ruins glowed with rebirth. Grass sparked from the cracked soil. Rain turned to steam. The valley lived again. Mech collapsed, barely conscious. His skin was marked with faint golden runes, the echo of her power etched into his veins. He could feel her heart still beating inside his mind, a pulse not of domination, but harmony. She knelt beside him, her voice soft as dusk. You touched the divine and did not break. No god has ever done that. He laughed weakly. Guess we're harder to break than they thought. She smiled, a gesture that seemed to light the air. They will come for us now. The Celestial Council cannot tolerate rebellion. Then we show them what rebellion looks like. The sky darkened as celestial fire bled through the clouds, 6 radiant figures descending on beams of judgment. The gods had arrived. Their voices boomed across the valley, cold and furious. Dragon of the fallen flame, you defy the covenant. She rose to her full height, her wings unfolding like banners of war. You call it defiance. I call it love. Mech stepped forward, body trembling but alive. You cursed her for protecting us. You made shame out of compassion. You forgot the one law older than heaven, gratitude. The nearest god raised his staff. You dare speak to us, mortal. Mech's voice did not waver. I just did. The dragon woman spread her wings, shielding him from the divine light. Her scales flared brighter, her power roaring to its peak. You will not touch him, she said, her tone sharp as creation. The gods hesitated. The sight of her reborn flame made even divinity falter. In that pause, Mech felt something shift, the hierarchy that had defined existence trembled. A mortal stood beside a god, equal in defiance, bound by shared will. Lightning cracked between the heavens. Then, one by one, the gods withdrew, their light fading into the upper air. The storm dispersed, leaving only the echo of their retreat. Mech looked up at her, half blind from the brilliance. Did we just win? She looked toward the clearing sky. No, she said softly. We reminded them what they were meant to protect. He smiled through the pain. Sounds like a win to me. She bent close, her gaze both tender and infinite. You burned, human. But you didn't die. That's what terrifies them. Her laughter rolled like distant thunder, bright and alive, and for the first time in centuries, the world sounded like it was breathing again. Dawn rose over the valley, soft and gold, washing away the ash of battle. The dragon woman stood at the edge of the world, wings folded against the sky that once banished her. Mech sat nearby, pale but alive, his hands trembling from what they had done. The air still hummed with the resonance of their joined souls. She turned to him, her gaze heavy with both pride and sadness. It's done, she said. The curse is gone. The gods won't touch this world again for a long time. Mech nodded, exhausted. Then you're free. Her smile was faint, bittersweet. Freedom is never simple. My bond with the heavens is broken, but so is my place among them. I am no longer goddess, not yet mortal. Then stay here, he said. The world could use someone who still remembers how to care. She looked toward the horizon where light spilled across the ruins like new veins of life. I cannot. The balance demands I return. Without me, the skies will wander and the storms will lose their paths. He didn't argue. He knew she was right. The air smelled of rain and renewal, grass pushed through the cracks of old metal. Life was returning, just as she promised. She stepped closer, her human form shimmering into focus, tall, radiant, faintly transparent, her eyes deep with galaxies. 16 months, she said softly. That's how long I was forbidden to feel anything. Do you know what the silence of eternity sounds like, Mech? He shook his head. No, but I know what it feels like to finally be heard. Her lips curved, almost tender. Then we understand each other. She reached out, fingers grazing his cheek. A trail of light followed her touch, warm and fading quickly. I wish I could stay long enough to learn what becomes of you. Maybe you already know, he said. You're the one who gave me your flame. That wasn't mine to give, she replied, voice like wind through bells. It was always yours. You only reminded me what it meant to share it. For a moment, they stood in silence, the kind that doesn't ache, only lingers. Mec could feel the bond between them thinning, the energy dissipating as the balance restored itself. The sigils on his skin dimmed to faint scars, glowing like whispers under the sunlight. She straightened, wings unfurling again, each feather burning with quiet brilliance. When they tell stories of the heavens, they will remember your name. Not because you defied gods, but because you dared to love one. He managed a tired grin. And when they tell stories of dragons, they'll remember yours. Not for your fire, but for your mercy. Her laughter came low and warm. Then let the stories keep us alive. A sudden wind swept through the valley, carrying petals, dust, and light. She rose into it effortlessly, her wings beating once, twice, before she hovered above him. For a heartbeat, Mec thought she might stay. Instead, she bowed her head and whispered, "Goodbye, mechanic of hearts." He watched as she ascended, her form dissolving into a column of gold that pierced the morning clouds. The sound of her wings faded until only the hush of wind remained. Mec stood alone, surrounded by the hum of reborn earth. The machines he had tended for years now pulsed with faint life, as though her essence had awakened something buried within them. Rivers began to carve new paths through the valley. The world no longer looked dead, it looked waiting. Mec knelt, pressing a hand to the soil. It was warm, alive, breathing. The mark on his palm still glowed, faint but steady, a reminder of the bond that had changed both man and myth. He whispered to the empty sky, "She fixed the world. I just held the wrench." A soft laugh escaped him. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel small. The stars above burned clearer than before, arranged now in a shape that almost looked like wings, the constellation of the dragon's sister, reborn. He turned toward the horizon, the golden light reflecting in his eyes. "They'll come again someday," he murmured. "When they do, I'll be ready." Above him, a single ember drifted down from the heavens, landing gently in the dirt. Mec picked it up and smiled as it pulsed against his skin, warm and alive. He pocketed it, then walked back toward the ruins, not as a mechanic fixing the past, but as a creator shaping what came next. In the distance, thunder rolled softly, not in anger but remembrance. And though the world no longer worshipped dragons, every sunrise after that carried her promise across the sky, a reminder that even gods could fall, and even humans could teach them how to rise again.